best to your life and to your business. Not the Beachbody. It's your business. It's your life. That's what you're giving to. So how much have you been given of you? And what level is it at? You know, are you ratcheting your benchmark up? Are you deciding to live life here instead of here? And this business giving you all the opportunity to do that to whatever level you want in the next 24 months? You're sitting, are you deciding to live life here instead of here? And this business giving you all the opportunity to do that to whatever level you want in the next 24 months? You're sitting here today, I don't care if you've been in the business one day or been in this business 2 years, every one of you are sitting right now within 24 months can have a strong six-figure income in this business. And for most of you, that would buy your life back. You could quit your job with a strong six-figure income. And you all have been given a gift with that potential right now. Right now. Every single one of you. I can say that guaranteed. No doubt in my mind. But you got to decide. Give me the ball. Okay? It's yours. You got it. What are you going to do? You're going to hold it? Or are you going to let it fly? Sometimes you're going to miss. Who cares? You're shooting. So you need to shoot a little bit more. Let me talk at the end as I wrap up here about, it says story. Learn to tell yours. As Beachbody coaches, I hear people give up and I hear coaches tell their stories. And they'll say, tell me about your story. How do you get, what's Beachbody about? They say, well, I was 100 pounds overweight. I drank Shakeology. And after I drank Shakeology, I did P90X. I did P90X. Now I'm in great shape. Okay? That's not your story. What do I mean? Let me ask you a question. If you tell me that, I'm going to ask you this. You're 100 pounds overweight. What happened in your life that took you to 100 pounds overweight? Whatever happened in your life that got you to that point? Tell me about that. What did that feel like? Was it hopelessness? Was it sadness? What would ever allow you to get to a place where you put on 100 pounds more than you should have in your life? What was it? You know, they said, well, maybe, you know, I gave up. I didn't care about life anymore. Or I was in a marriage where I didn't care about it and I didn't care what I looked like anymore. Whatever it is, that's the story. It's not, I was here 100 pounds, I did Shakeology and now it's gone. That doesn't touch me. That doesn't move me emotionally. If I'm hearing that story, I don't go, oh gosh, I relate to that. Or I've been there. Maybe not 100 pounds, but I felt that. It doesn't do that for me. Right? It's like you have to take words and you have to tell stories with the words to drive home your point. Let me give you an example. The word empathy. Feeling sorry for someone. Or feeling empathy for people. Caring about people. When you use that word empathy, things come to mind. But it doesn't really drive it home. Now let me tell you a story. I went to a seminar years ago. And I went in, it was about 3,000 people, and it was a seminar on empathy. How to understand people better, how to not feel sorry for, but how to really embrace people's sadness. I thought it'd be good to learn for what I do. When I walked in, there was a set of stairs, and I walked in, there was this homeless woman laying there. She had this old trench coat on, throw up on it. She was just it was disgusting. She laid there, her hair was just stringy. She laid across the stairs. And I walked in like this, and I kind of saw her, and you almost had to step over her to get in. And I kind of moved around her the best I could. But I stood and watched people step over her. Some people reached down and kind of touched her head a little. But everybody stayed away from her because it was pretty disgusting. She was a human being laying there. Life just sucked out of her, laying there, and it just moved me, and I watched her. So I went inside and went into the seminar. And the guy came out, and he introduced a woman speaker, and she walked out, and it was her. It was her. She took the wig off, she set it on the podium, took the coat off, threw it on the ground, and she didn't say a word for 5 minutes. To me, I think that seminar was $400. If she never would have said a word and left, I got the point. I got the point. So when you think of empathy, she proved to each one of us that we don't understand about life and people in that very moment of what she did. She just spoke for an hour, and it was incredible. So if I use the word empathy, okay, I sort of get it, but when I share that story, you guys go, I get it. I feel that. That's how we have to share our stories, you guys. You have to touch someone emotionally. When me becomes we connect. So when you tell your story, you sit down with someone and you say, tell me about your life, or tell me about Beachbody. It's the emotional transportation that draws us in. Right? So if I stand up and I'm doing a briefing and I come out and I go, hey, I'm really good to be here tonight. I really want to talk to you about Beachbody. We throw up a PowerPoint and it shows all the states that start lighting up blue, and all the obese people are there. And I start talking about, oh yeah, Beachbody is a great thing. We got a mission statement. You know what? You people in the audience, they're going, okay, whatever. I mean, I might not even care about obesity that much. I may not be obese, so what am I, but if I come out there and I spend the first 10 minutes telling you about my life and about where I've come from, and how, the challenges that were there for me, and I become vulnerable, and I allow you in my life, and I say some things to you or ask you some questions where you go, that's me, I understand that, then all of a sudden you're listening. If you want someone to listen to your story, then tell them a story that moves them. I was 100 pounds and lost it on Shakeology. Doesn't move anybody. How incredible Shakeology doesn't move people's hearts and souls. It doesn't move them to action. But when you learn to communicate your story, whether somebody asks you and you do it in 5 minutes or whether they give you a half hour to do it, when you touch me, right, and I can feel it, because I'm right where you were. I may not be 100 pounds overweight, but I have been hopeless. I have been sad. I have felt those things. And you're telling me you've been able to overcome them because of this business? Why? Because someone cared about me. Someone came into my life and said, I care about you. I care about how you look physically, but I care about you emotionally, and I care about you succeeding, and I care about your dreams. That's what Beachbody is. But we throw up PowerPoints and we just fizz it up with all this stuff, and PowerPoints don't move people. I'm not saying don't use a PowerPoint, but I'm saying facts don't move people to faith. Facts don't move them. What it does is your story, your life, the truth of your life, your vulnerability, your being real. Point 2 here says we are wired toward emotional overcoming much more than facts and figures. Quit giving people all the information about your business. Information, do they need it? Of course they want to know it, but that's not what's going to get them interested. It's you. It's what's happened to you. They're sitting here saying, I need to get there, and you're going, well, I'm about halfway there. But I've been where you are, and let me talk about where I was too. Every time you share your story, it's the challenge, the struggle, and the overcoming. Those are the formula when you tell your story. Challenge, overcoming, and formula. Victory or overcoming. Challenge, struggle. Here's where I was. Todd saying I was so fat and overweight it saved my life. What a crazy thing. I had a guy, I just saw a coach the other day, and you know what he said? He shared his story, and this was the strongest thing he said. He was giving your typical Beachbody story, and all of a sudden he said this, he goes, he got really emotional, he goes, I remember that I had to turn off the light at night when I got undressed in front of my wife because I was so humiliated the way I looked. And I go, whoa. As a man, I go, I can't imagine what that feels like. That guy touched me right then. Now I go, okay, I want to hear what you're doing. I want to hear what you're saying because I know what that feels like. Or I can't even imagine as a man what that feels like. Robert Hudson shares about the time he sat down with Melissa's dad, across from her dad, and he'd been married to her, worked as hard as he could, couldn't provide for her, couldn't financially make it, and had to go to the father to borrow money. And he was so humiliated sitting across from her dad. And he said, I just started crying. I was so humiliated that his daughter, I couldn't provide for her. When he shared that story, man, I go, every man in here knows what that would probably feel like. Because you want to be this, you want to be the provider for your wife. You want to do all those things. And you had to concede that. As a man, you just go, oh, God, that doesn't feel good. So I go, wow, I'm going to listen to what this guy has to say. Because I've been there. I connect with that. Emotional transportation going on. That's what storytelling is. We need to teach our coaches how to do it. It turns me into we. It leads from the heart, not the head. No one's interested in the knowledge in your head. They're interested in what you have in your heart. And you need to transport and share it that way. Boredom occurs when you fail to make the other person interested. How many people have ever left a conversation? That person's so boring. Well, maybe you didn't get the right questions. Maybe you didn't let him share their story. Maybe you were more interested in telling them than you were listening. We were talking about this last night at dinner, and we were talking about how when you get off a phone call with a coach, it's easy to check and say, did I listen more or talk more? If you talk more, it was wrong. If you want to encourage them. Because the best thing you can do is if they ask a question, you ask a question back. Because see, every one of you in here know what your problem is. Like Meredith could call me and say, Craig, I'm just struggling with business. I'm not really sure what my problem is. I just can't seem to get this thing going. I said, oh no, you know what it is. What would you think it might be? And right away she came up with, well, it could be this, this, or this. I said, probably is. Let's talk about each one of those. But what's so strong about that is it's not me saying, Meredith, this, this, and this is your problem. Because now I've told her what her problem is. She has to own the problem and come up with it herself. What's the difference? Conviction. That's me telling her, so it's Craig saying this is my problem. When Meredith says to me, I think it's these three things, I know, because I already know, it is, but you said it, let's talk about them. What can we do about it? So you ask questions. People, it's like if you're doing counseling with a couple. Some of you in here have been in marriage counseling. You go in there and you sit across from them, and they'll sit there, and after 45 minutes they'll go, hey, I came for answers. I'm not getting answers. You know what I always say? I don't have answers. You have your answers. I'm just going to help you discover them. You know what it is. Every one of you right now know why your business isn't further along than it is. You know. You know, I don't need to tell you, but if I'm working with you, I'm going to help you discover it. And by helping you discover it, and you, the one who discovers it, then you own it, and now we take responsibility for changing it. With me, with my foot up your butt just a little bit. Right? Yeah, shut up. Okay. Anyway, exactly. But you know. So it's that discovery. Putting facts into emotional context. Putting facts into emotional context. The whole storytelling, there's a great book to read. It's called Tell to Win. Telltowin, by Peter Guber, Guber. It talks about this stuff, how the persuasion that we can have in our life by telling stories, by sharing your story with people. It's a great book. And that's what we are, you guys. I've been having a ton of dialogue with Carl Geiger on this whole idea. Because I think when Carl started the network marketing company, he kind of thought it was just about his products and about P90X, and I think that's really because he'd never built a business. He never knew what it was about. And from the day I started working with these guys, Platinum Presenting stuff, I was pushing the why, the story, and hey, it's life transformation. But you know, I've been getting some texts from Carl recently. It's been really awesome because he's going, you realize that our business is stories? I'm like, yeah, I know. You know, it's serious because if those of you who've ever heard Carl speak, he's not a real, I mean, he's a great speaker, but he's not emotional. He doesn't get teary-eyed, doesn't get moved that much. That's the kind of guy, he's kind of choleric personality. Right? But the thing I kept telling him is this whole stuff we're talking about here, the transformation. I got him to read that book and the whole why of people's lives, and he goes, "We're a business of stories." He goes, "We don't necessarily need any more innovations and more, promotions and all these kinds of things. We just need to help people discover who they are." I go, "Oh God, Carl, I love you," and it's true. Like at Atlantis, I'm going to do an hour talk on Saturday morning on how to develop the why in somebody's life. No, you would have never asked me to do that a while ago. I got a thing from Jeff. We really want you to talk about this. Because after my call with Carl, he said, then also Jeff called me. I understood you talked to Carl about this story thing. And yeah, that's who we are, you guys. That's why I don't go out and talk so much about Shakeology or talk about P90X. I talk about the stuff we talked about today. Because that's what you need to know. That's who you are. That's who the people you bring in are. That's how it makes us. We're humans. That's how we work. That's how our pulse works. That's how our life works. That's how you work. Significance. Making a difference. Being different. But deciding today when you leave this room that that's it, period. I'm drawing a line. I'm done. I'm done just being average in this business. I'm done just getting by. I'm done just sort of doing it. I'm going to go win at this thing. Because it's time for me to step up my life. It's time for me to write an epitaph that would blow the world's mind. It's time to me to have audacious, giant dreams. It's time for that in my life. My dad died just a few months ago. And I was in Phoenix, and I get a 911 from my brother on a text, which wasn't good. So I called him, and my dad was dead. They found him dead. My mom died 2 years ago, and my dad, he was just lost after she died. They've been forever together. And she quit drinking because of him, and she's been sober for 40 years. But I went up there. I flew up there, and I went out. I had to identify his body because my other brothers wouldn't do it. Other brothers wouldn't do it. So I went in there and just had my peace with him. But I remember walking out in the grave, outside in the cemetery, kind of by myself, crying and upset. I remember walking around there and just looking at all these gravestones, not knowing any of them, any of the people. My mom's buried there, and I look at these names, and I start thinking to myself, how many of these people right now, with these headstones, just died and never lived? and never ever lived that dream, the dream of their life, that music that was inside them that they were called to live. Never did. And then I started looking on that, all of us have, all of the gravestones, or you all been to funerals, you've been to cemeteries. We have 2 dates, right? There's the birth date and the death date. And as long as we don't take our own lives, we have no control over either one of them. But I started looking at those dates thinking, you know what we control? The dash. That's our life. That dash is our life. That's what we live. We don't know when we're born, and we don't know when God's taking us. But what does your dash look like? That little white line, what does it represent? What does it represent until today? What is it going to represent moving forward? That little dash in that line. That's all we have, you guys. That's your epitaph. Because we don't control the other 2 dates, but we do control that. And if you don't think you're due, you're wrong. You have charge of your life. You have charge of where you're going and what you're going to do, what your kids are going to be like, and what your marriage is going to be like, and what your family is going to be like, and what your businesses are going to be like. You are in charge of that. You got to believe that. My mom died 2 years ago of Alzheimer's. I don't know how many of you have family members or have had family members that have the disease. It's a very sad disease because they just slowly disappear. My mom was in stage 4. My mom's dream her whole life, from the time she was a child, was to be a nurse. She loved nursing. She was a candy striper, I guess they call them, when she was a little kid. She had this life's desire to be a nurse. And she never became one. She was molested for 5 years as a child. She had a terrible childhood. But anyway, she drank and she just blew her life away. I mean, she raised 5 boys, but she just had a terrible life, and she knew it. It was a regretful life. The last 2 weeks before she died, every day, my mom would walk outside the door and come inside like she'd just come home from the hospital. Every single day. I go, how'd it go, Mom? I said, oh man, I helped so many people today. I made a difference in their life. We saved this one little girl, and she had complete stories in this mind that was now almost gone. She had stories of every little experience that day with people whose lives she changed. See, those to me were stories of her entire life that she dreamed would someday happen that never did. So it was good today, Mom. Man, it was wonderful. You see, it took the end of my mom's life with her mind almost gone. And what surfaced? The dream. It never leaves, guys. It's never going anywhere. It will be with you forever, no matter what. So live it. Live it now. Don't wait for some day when you have to fabricate something in your mind to live something that never became true. For 2 weeks, she got to be in the hospital and save lives. She had a stroke, brought in hospice, and within a week she was dead. But just to see that, it reminded me so much of you guys, people I deal with for 35 years now, of continuing to just share stories about the fact, don't let the dream die inside of you. Go do it. Get it done.